everyone. Welcome. Today is Tuesday, October 25th, 2022. I am Solid Blue Sister, and this is My Turn to Talk. And I hope everyone is having a wonderful day today. It is a nice sunny day here in Southern California, and I am enjoying the day so far. Okay, let's see. Hey, Frankie, welcome. Number one today. Shelby, welcome. Welcome. Glad to see all of you, or you too. We'll say all when more people pop in. And I'm going to let the music play. Let's see, and anyone over on any other streaming service? Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, wherever. Welcome. Okay. Just going to groove to the music a little bit, let more people pop in. Hey, Minnesota. Okay, so I did let the music play all the way because I have another outgoing song that I'm going to play. So, all right. So, today I want to talk about couples and finances. This was actually a requested topic. So, I want to ask you guys, should couples automatically share finances? Is it something that's automatically a given when you get married, or if you're not married, if you have a significant other, you guys have been together for a while, should you share finances? Is it okay to have separate finances? Is it okay to have your own separate accounts and then you have one together? Should one person control everything? And I am using the word control. They're the ones that, hey, Chris, whoever is in control of the money, male or female, you are basically giving the other person some money. Like they're either coming to you or in some cases, for whatever reason, some people are on an allowance. So I want to know what you guys think. Do you all think that couples should share finances? I personally do not. I personally think that couples should have their own money. Hey GP, welcome. I think that you should have your own money, and or should I say or let me put it like this: couples should have their own money, and if needed, have one account together where household, bills come out of, whatever. I think that it really cuts down on arguing about finances, arguing about money. That's my own personal belief. That's what I think. Some people may think that that's wrong. Some people think that when you get married, when you're a couple, everything should be together. If you get a credit card, both names should be on the credit card. Both names should be on the checking account. So that's my question. What do you guys think? Should couples automatically have the same or share finances? And again, this topic, hey, Pretty Deb, GP, did I welcome you? I can't remember. When I started talking, I can't remember, but welcome, GP. Again, this topic was requested. So, Chris says, my wife and I have joint accounts in our banking and deposits. We also have separate credit card accounts, but we both have access to each card. So we do give ourselves allowances to do as we please individually, no questions asked. Okay. So what do you all think about that? And Chris, I agree with you. However, the only thing that I don't agree with is having joint accounts. I think it's okay to have one joint account together, but I am strongly in the belief that couples should have separate accounts. And I know that some people say, well, that's wrong. And, well, what are you hiding? Whatever. Not hiding anything. I have my own money. In my household, I have my own money. My husband has his. There are things that we pay together, whatever. But one thing that my husband and I don't argue about, never have, is money. I don't want him to question something that I bought. He doesn't question. I mean, I don't question what he buys. I may say, when I came home, there was a huge big screen TV sitting in the house. I was like, wow. I said, that's big. He's like, that's what I wanted. Okay. That's what he wanted. It's his TV. Do I watch it? Yes, every so often. But most of the time, I don't even like watching TV in that particular room. I mean, when do we not have to? And I know the conversation is going to change a little bit into when do we not have to share everything with our spouse? But finances is a big thing. Chris says, my wife and I feel there's nothing we hide from each other. Okay, and again, I'm not saying that you are. I don't think my husband's hiding anything from me. We just have our own accounts. But I do think that there are some people, Chris, who will say, "What are you hiding?" And people always want to go there. They always want to go to the negative. Well, how come I can't know? How come, this? Why did you leave the room when you got on the phone? How come you couldn't talk in front of me? Sometimes it's just a matter of privacy. Sometimes it's a matter of, you're watching something and, I don't want, that background noise, that you shouldn't have to listen to me on the phone while you're watching your show. One thing that my husband does, is, if I'm in the kitchen, if I'm talking, hey, Brandon, welcome. If I'm in the kitchen talking, on the phone, and if he's, in another room watching TV and he can hear me, I hear the TV start to go up. He'll start turning up the TV, which means that I'm talking too loud or he can't hear me, whatever. I just leave the room. Doesn't mean I have something to hide. I'm just leaving the room. Okay. And Chris says it's definitely a large cause of arguments in households today. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And it's an easy default. GB says all decisions should be split down the middle, 70-30. Okay, GB, who gets the 70, who gets the 30? So, okay, so Shelby's here. Hey, girl, what would you like to say today?
Hello, everybody. Our situation is different. I used to work, but we still had everything together. I don't work so it's kind of weird how everything works. He pays all the bills, um, and gets groceries, whatnot. Um, and you're gonna think you're so 40s. I get an allowance, and the allowance, when I say allowance, it is to pay like Apple Music, and if I want something from Amazon, I'm able to get that. Um, so that's what how we do things, and I don't have to tell him if it's something from Amazon. I don't have to tell him what it is. That's something that I divulge to him.
Okay. All right.
But
So,
he doesn't ask me. It's not. He doesn't ask me. He just wants to know how much it is.
okay. All right. Shelby, I'm going to come back to you. As I just want to read this comment from Chris. Chris says, my wife and I have only known each other for relationships as a couple. We have not experienced partner, and we have not experienced partners that money was not an argument. Okay. All right. So, Shelby, in terms of your allowance, is this something that both of you guys decided on how much money he was going to give you every week or however you guys do it? Or did he decide, well, I think that you need this amount of money or you don't need, or,
Oh no, he doesn't. He no, it's a agreed amount, and sometimes I don't even. He may give it to me, and I don't use it. So like the next week, I may pay a bill with it.
okay. Okay. All right. Okay. And see if it's in a situation where it's working for you, fine. Um, um, but for just again, for me personally, I think that couples should have their own money and they should have money together. Now, if you're in a situation where one person works and the other one doesn't, then yes, it does make things different. Things, unless you have another gig part time or whatever, you are basically reliant on that other person for money. But do you think that is something that should be automatic? Do you think that when you get married, you automatically have to join your accounts? And I'm going to throw a little caveat in here. I'm going to throw a little twist. Let's say one person makes substantially more money than the other. Coming into the relationship, when you first met this person was making a shitload of money. Okay. And you weren't. You were just making, hey, Woody, welcome. Power Girl, welcome. You all were just making, average, whatever. But this person, maybe they own their own company, or maybe they were even they were well off in terms of wealthy. You weren't. Okay, be it the male or the female. Crispa, welcome. Do you believe that money should automatically be um, all of a sudden that money is my money? Should your bank account automatically be merged with mine?
Um, can I add one more thing to the last question before we move
Sure.
on?
Uh-huh.
Now when I did work, I did pay my own car payment,
Okay.
and that was all. But now to moving on to this question. Um, if they're married, I think they should combine their monies together. If they're unmarried, no. Um, if uh, if one has more substantial money than the other, um, most of the time they sign a prenup. I think, but I don't think that it should matter regardless if one makes more money than the other. Um, I really think that I still stand that they should combine their money and combine the bills together and um, go from there.
Okay, I'm glad you brought up the prenup thing, but I'm want to read what Chris says. And Crazy Lady, welcome. We also each find an account for large expenses for household or vacation we can pull from whenever we want, in addition to our individual allowances. Okay, and then Chris continued to say, basically, we put everything on one large credit card for all expenses each month and transfer from our other accounts at the end of the month, and we both have access. Okay, Brina says, I do think there should be a shared account for main expenses. I also think people should have individual accounts. Okay, Minnesota, you said no. Yes, I'm asking you about should you automatically get the money um, if one person has more money? She says no, and Ross says, only crazy lady says Ross doesn't know how much money he has. Um, Okay, Chris says, isn't a prenup a sign of insecurity? And Crazy Lady says, my dad had a household account and savings account for whomever he was with. Okay, so let's talk about the prenup. Uh, Chris says, kind of like a marriage, but okay. So, all right, let's talk about this prenup. I am 100% for prenups. Okay. Again, if you are coming into a relationship or marriage when one person is substantially financially secure than the other, be it they come from a family that has $1 billion and were just, waiting tables or worked in retail or wherever. Even if that person didn't have that much money, but they had a substantial amount of money. Um, I definitely think that a prenup is needed because to me, you're not just protecting yourself, but under that company could be other siblings, could be other people, whatever. And let's say if we got divorced two years later, I'm sorry, I have a problem with giving you half of what I have. you know, um, and Chris, I understand what you're saying, kind of like it's a marriage, but then that comes to the same thing where whether you sign a prenup or not, should you automatically put money together? Shouldn't you still have your own funds? So is that still kind of like a marriage? But I mean, does a foundation of marriage rest on you guys putting your money together? And Brina says prenups are so unromantic and so unsexy. Yeah, but if I ever have to have a prenup, and I would not have a problem signing one. So, and GP says prenuptial agreements don't work. I would like to know why you don't think so. And Chris says tells me there's a question of loyalty. So why get married to be just to be a couple? A marriage is richer or poorer. It is a shared problem. Okay, so Chris, are you saying that you should not have that everything should be shared? Money, everything, um, everything. Rena says if it's like planning your funeral, but for the end of a relationship instead. If you decide for marriage, I believe yes. Okay, all right. So Shelby, you want to jump in here and agree, push back, say something, or whatever? Anybody else want to pop on?
I think prenups not only protects the wealthy, and I agree that it protects. Sometimes a prenup is, with two wealthy people.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
it uh, it protects both parties. But if the person is unwealthy, 9 times out of 10, a judge is going to honor a prenup, but they are also going to say you have to give so and so alimony of such and such.
Okay, so all right. So Crucible says prenups might be unromantic and sexy, but so is marriage eventually. Okay, so Brina says touche to Crucible. Chris says wealthy should not be protected. That's part of our system's wrongdoings. Nowadays, the system is designed for rich and poor. Okay, so to what Shelby just said, so what's the difference between having a prenup and then if the marriage ends, you're paying that person alimony
Well,
or
it's
you're
probably not.
paying
I'm sorry.
support. So yeah.
Well, if you don't have children, you won't get child support.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the case of my parents, they didn't have a prenup, but they did have, when they got divorced, my dad had to pay alimony and he was supposed to pay child support. He never paid child support, but he did pay my mom alimony. In certain situations, yes, I guess she would have child support if there were children involved. But I don't think, if there's not children involved, and it's probably not, I wouldn't say it's a huge amount, depending on where you live, I'm supposing, and how much the income is. But, they would definitely have to get alimony out of that rich person.
Okay, so okay, I have a couple of questions based on what you said and based on, hold on, crazy lady, I miss you there. Hold on, let me grab her.
And I don't think I answered your question.
That's okay. I'm reading some of these chats here. So, Chris says wealthy should not be protected as part of our system's wrongdoing nowadays. The system is designed for rich and poor. Okay, and then Chris also says, I don't believe in divorce unless extreme circumstances. I would like to know what you consider extreme. And Chris says, I would say marriage should be not taken lightly or to be the cool kids and normalize it. Okay, I agree with that. And GP to Chris says, goes who files for divorce 80-90% of the time. Okay, so you guys are saying a lot here. So when you when okay, let me ask this question because now I'm going to talk about death for a moment. When someone in your family dies, your mother, father, and you know, you're splitting up the account or whatever with the siblings, do you think that your spouse automatically should be entitled to your parents' money?
No.
But you're married. You should share things equally. I'm not saying that to you. I'm just saying from what I've heard from in the chat. But so I'm just throwing that out there. But you're married. You should share things equally. So your parents died. They left you $50,000. Should that $50,000, should you open up an account and you keep that $50,000, or should you share that $50,000 with your husband?
No, I would put that in a trust for my children.
Okay. Let's say you didn't have kids, or let's say that you just didn't want to do that. Let's say for whatever reason you wanted that $50,000 because you wanted to go off and go and travel the world, whatever.
Well,
And,
of course, he would go with me, but
okay, but I guess what I'm saying is is there an assumption that your spouse is entitled to that money just because you're married? And if so, what's the difference between you bringing money into the marriage and not sharing it, and you and you inheriting money and not sharing it? So,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, hold that thought because Crazy Lady's been waiting, and I
Oh, okay.
want to go to her. Crazy Lady, hey,
You
welcome.
could feel me chomping at the bit, couldn't you?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, on the alimony thing, alimony was like designed for like, okay, the housewives that like were housewives for like 20 plus years, and then all of a sudden their husband leaves them for like whatever. The alimony was because, okay, in reality, if you've been in the home for 20 years raising kids, doing the homebody thing, you don't really have any true work skills, and that alimony was supposed to be like, a way for the wives or the husbands, for the ones that were married to really rich wives, to be able to like survive and maybe get retraining for a job or something. Like some alimonies are set up till, they remarry, or something like that. That's what my understanding of alimony was.
Okay,
And on the
so
death thing,
uh-huh.
If it's and I have experience with this, if you're married to like your person for like, a significant amount of time, I'll go with a VA, a tenure. Okay. If you're married 10 years or more, then you're entitled to some, some of the property. But if the property was like, all right, case example, my dad's property. My younger brother Scott's mom was the one that picked that property. It was her property. When she passed away, dad took the insurance money and paid off the mortgage. Okay. Now, that property should have gone to Scott, no matter who my dad married or remarried. Okay. Because check it out. That's the way Becky had it in her will. Because it's just, you know, the new wife, she wasn't even married to dad for 10 years. And what? She gets half of everything or she gets it all? No, not okay. Because, the family deserves something because hello, it's their life, that they're your parents' life,
Okay. Okay. I want to say formal welcome to Juju and Kimberly Michael. Welcome. And Juju says, I would share with my spouse. Chris says, I would share. Chris says, I feel people's reality of money makes you happy is a real statement. If thought otherwise, I feel someone against that thought has been doing it wrong and hasn't experienced happiness. Not to say money is everything in a relationship or as a single person, but it relieves a lot of stress um, on an individual as couple or couple. GP says child support is 18 years. Alimony is common to be for life. Chris says try to be greater than you were yesterday. Chris says crazy lady, that's a whole complicated issue. A lot of variables. Brina says alimony is for life, so people get paid for lack of driving. I'm doing it wrong. Alimony is up until the person remarries. That's not a lifetime thing. Juju says, "Hey, crazy lady, was your dad's name on the deed?" Crazy lady says, "Money is money, but land should stay with family." Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I have a couple of things to say, but Crucible, you have been waiting, and I will say what I have to say. Crucible.
Good afternoon, Solid. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to play devil's advocate for a minute on the inheritance question. First of all, I think if you inherit money, you should keep it. Now, if you want to share some of it with your spouse, that's up to you. But that was money that was intended for you by your parents. So I believe you should keep it. But I want to play devil's advocate for a minute here. Let's just say the situation was not reversed, but it was a liability situation instead of an asset situation. My in-laws have a medical situation. They don't have health insurance. Something happened and they had to go to the hospital. They incurred a $50,000 hospital debt that they can't pay. They're going to have to file for bankruptcy. I have it in the bank. My spouse doesn't. Would, under that same sharing philosophy, would you be within your, I'm not going to say rights, but would it be appropriate for you to approach your spouse to say, look, got a $50,000 debt, blah, 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 here are all the details. I need access to the money you have in the bank. Now, that really challenges the whole shared responsibility thing, but I'm curious to what anybody on the panel or the chat or you, Solid, think. It's a similar situation. I don't own that problem. We've created it somehow. But if I'm going to be entitled, or I think I should be entitled to assets that you incur, shouldn't I also be responsible for liabilities or debts that you incur?
Okay, I'm going to take that one because that's the kind of the road that I wanted to go down. Uh, okay, and then Chris says, Crucible, why is it your debt to be paid off if they're still alive? Okay, So if my spouse has his parents have some issues where it's a medical thing, it would be up to me. I mean, at that point, I either say yes, I'll help you, or no. I don't think it's a sharing question at all. I think is do I want to help? Either yes or no. I mean, simple. And then the next thing will be, well, are your parents going to pay me back? Are we going to get this money back, or am I just, your parents are having some difficulties medical wise or whatever, and I'm giving this $50,000 not even to my spouse, but to their parents. Can I have a reasonable expectation that I'm going to get that money back before they die? And if they die beforehand, any money, from their house or whatever, I should get my $50,000 back. Do I have a reasonable expectation that I should get that money back?
Well, I just added some context there. They don't have the money, and they're never going to have the money. So you're not going to be paid back. You're fully aware of that going into the situation. So, but you use a good word, expectations. If I'm the spouse and my spouse inherits, or let's say she wins the lottery, she wins $50,000. I'm legally not entitled to that, and I shouldn't have any expectation about it. If she chooses to share it with me, that's her thing. Should I have the same expectation? Should I run into an adverse situation where now I've got a liability on my hands? Should my expectation be that she or he is going to do the quote unquote right thing? You're never going to see that money again. That's not even an issue. Would you make the same decision?
It would be hard. I'm not gonna lie. It would be hard, because now I'm helping your family out. What if my family, the next month? What if there's an issue with my family, and now there's no money there? Or what if that money was going to go for my kid to, go to school to pay tuition? So now I have to take out loans because I helped out your family.
Okay, well, let me ask a different question. Let's take the medical thing off the table. Let's say somebody got in trouble with the law. They needed to hire an attorney, or they were going to go to jail, or they needed bail money or something like that. Would that be a similar situation where I could just let the person sit in jail or go to prison or do whatever because I have the money, but it's not my problem? I mean, I don't want to just restrict it to medical stuff. Whatever the problem happens to be, should the other spouse have an expectation that if you have it, you will provide it?
No, I don't. And okay. even for something in terms of, if one of your family members, not even my own family member, my sister or my son, my husband, if they were in jail, not even somebody, my own family, but you're talking about my spouse's family, and we're talking about something like jail or something. No, I'm sorry, and that may make me sound harsh and cold, but at the same time, again, like you said, I know I'm not going to get this money back. So what happens if I was saving this money for a rainy day, for something that goes on in my family, or I'm saving this money, for my son, for school or whatever. So like I said, so am I expected to go and take out loans? Can't I expect that same person who's in jail and needs an attorney, why don't you go take out a loan and you go see a bail bondsman or something, and you what I want to say, you do the same thing that you're expecting that now I'm going to have to do. So I'm going to go to Shelby and Crazy Lady. Let's see, Chris says, in that situation, agree. I would say if bankruptcy can be applied and keep property instead of bankruptcy, I agree. File bankruptcy. Salad says you would use 10K to bail a family member out. Are we talking, okay, again, are we talking about my spouse's family member, or are we talking about mine? And once again, it's like, you're asking me to take money that I inherited to help your family. But what about things that my family may need? So what if, 3 months later, 4 months later, someone in my family needs $10,000. I don't have it. Or they need $50,000. I don't have it. So can't I say you go to a bail bondsman and get that $10,000? Pay the see, Chris says pay the 10,000 direct without a bail bondsman and make sure they show up. That's not not even making sure they show up. You still so won't lose a dime. But why do I have to make sure that they show up? Is your family member? You make sure they show up. So then, if you go to a bail bondsman, you make sure they show up. Then you won't lose any money, right? Hey, Sean Lady, welcome. Chris says true. Okay, so I'm gonna go backwards. Shelby,
Yes.
you wanted to say something?
I do. Okay. My biggest dilemma in this is, if you're married, I think family is family, no matter what. Even though I have a sister-in-law that I hate to the end of time, and she came to us and she said that she needed money for surgery. If we had it, we would give it to her. I mean, and this is to the point, my husband does not even like her. So, it goes both ways. But if we had it, we would absolutely give it to her. Our situation, his dad died a few years ago. His mother has recently married. They have a home just right up the hill from us. They, about 2 or 3 months ago, they decided there's nothing in her husband's name around here. We have a lot of land around here, and there is nothing in his name around here. And he wasn't throwing a fit or anything. He just felt left out. So they went together because she had an acre in her name. So they went together and put it in both of their names, to not only to protect him, but to protect us also. So if something was to happen to her, God forbid, we could not per se kick him out, which we wouldn't do that. He has done wonders for her and us. But we could not legally say, hey, you've got to go if she was to pass. So with that said, I don't think, like I said, family is family. You're going to help your family regardless, once you're married, regardless of the situation. To me, if you love your spouse, in my opinion, not that I'm saying you don't love your spouse.
No, that's hey, I don't that's cool. That's cool. Crazy Lady, you want to chime in? And I will say, I do agree with Crazy Lady when you say land should stay within the family, and the family means the family.
Yes, I agree with that.
I do definitely agree that land should stay within the family. So, Crazy Lady, you want to chime in here?
Yeah, Lance yeah, and death changes people, because I guarantee you, my dad, when he changed his will, if he would have known that she would have behaved this way, he would have never changed his will. He would have looked at it and said, hey, you get my retirement pay, consider yourself lucky you got your own house in Bonners Ferry. He would have never changed his will. But, he was an old kind of guy and believed that, the wife, everything's 50-50, and that she'll do the right thing, but she didn't. So, you have to protect your family.
Okay. Okay.
When it comes to older people and stuff, you got to protect your family.
Okay.
End of story. And land's land. I don't care if you're married to, my dad for 500 years. Check it out. That land was, it's to stay with one of his kids.
Okay. All right, Crucible, I will get to you. I want to read a couple of these comments. Chris says, I financed a house for my parents because I have better credit, but they have funds to pay, and my rate is a lot better and was their forever home. They did put down, they did put a lot down on home, and I have a lender company for collecting payments. And you say business is business. Okay, so business is business, and you're saying it's an asset now. So is business, Chris, when it comes to paying, for your spouse's parents' medical bills? Chris says, yes, context is important. Thanks for clarifying. Yes, Chris, I was talking about Crucible's scenario where he says your spouse's parents, as opposed to if it was my spouse, my son or something, absolutely I would spend that 50,000. But again, I agree with Crazy Lady when she says land stays within the family. And both of my parents recently died. My dad died in 18. My mom's been gone for a year now, whatever. My mother was very, very complicated. And the will that she left was extremely complicated. My sister and I were jumping through hoops, and we recently just got everything taken care of. But there were things that my parents, especially my mom, was very clear on, that spouses, for whatever, you don't get anything. This money is for our daughters, but they have to do this, this, and this, and this. We have to make sure this, and this, and this is, I'm not going to go into any details, but we had to jump through hoops, and I think that when it comes to inheriting things, especially something from your family, then your spouse really doesn't have, hey, Pooh, welcome. Your spouse really doesn't have a say so. If you inherit jewelry or expensive items or something from your family that's been passed down, and you get into financial trouble, your spouse, to me, doesn't, or his family gets into financial trouble. Your spouse doesn't have a right, in my opinion, to say, you need to go sell that ring. You need to sell that bracelet because my mother needs help. Even if it was within your own family, your spouse does not have the right to tell you to sell something or to do something with something that was inherited from your family to you. And that's just something that, you all can call me selfish, you can call me whatever, but I would never, ever expect my husband to share with me or give me something that was handed down to him, be it land, money, whatever. Absolutely not, because it's his. It's something that his family is giving to him, and especially if it's something that was passed down within the family. No. Crucible.
Yeah, I understand how people feel about the land thing, but at the end of the day, I think you're splitting hairs. Assets are assets is one thing. To say, would you, I need you to sell that land or something. It's another thing if they wanted to do it. It's an asset. It's there to be used, and it's not to be looked at and admired. It's there to be utilized in emergency situations. And I want to go back to something Shelby said that I hadn't really thought about, but I agree with. You were saying, Solid, I would do certain things if it were my family. If it were my husband's or my wife's family, I might make a different decision. And Shelby pointed out accurately, I think, family is family. I don't know what the vows are like because I've never been married, but I know that has something in there to do with for better or for worse, and you marry the family. So if you're going to start the dividing line saying, I'm only going to, that strikes me as a highly, highly potentially flammable marriage situation, because now you're taking sides. And you're drawing bloodlines, and you're saying, I will only help people who share my DNA. You, however, the person I said would marry for better, for worse, and would always be there for you, your family doesn't qualify because they don't have my DNA. I think that's a very slippery slope. I think you get into a real tit for tat thing there where there's a lot of potential for acrimony and you're drawing battle lines there. So, I mean, I think it's obviously a case by case basis. If we're talking about $5,000 to bail somebody out of jail or take care of a medical bill, probably more palatable. If we're talking about $50,000, which is life changing money on either side, whether you're inheriting it or spending it, it's a big deal. So certain things are subjective. There's no such thing as all or nothing. I would always do this or I would never do that. But I do think it bears some consideration that family is family and you shouldn't pick and choose based on bloodlines.
You make a good point. But I am going to say it is a case by case basis, and it depends upon it depends upon each situation and the relationship that you have with someone. And I am going to say this. I also started. I don't know if you were hearing that when I started. Is my husband and I, we don't share funds. We have funds that we put together to pay certain things, whatever, but we have our own money. We do not argue about money at all. We just don't, because it's not necessary. We have, I mean, we just don't. Um uh my parents, they never argue about money. They had their separate accounts. They had an account two together, and both my husband's parents and my parents both told us before we got married, have separate accounts. It will, in the end, it will do you good. Have separate accounts. So that's the background that I grew up with. So I understand what you're saying, that family is family, but for richer, for poor, it wasn't that I'm marrying the family. I'm not marrying your mother, your father, your sister, your brother. I'm marrying this particular person. And if I have to marry a lot of the baggage that comes along with it, and yes, I am going to say baggage, because we all have members in our family who is like, oh my God, here they come again, whatever. But uh, you know, if I feel that, or even if my husband, because we have even talked about this before we got married, we were like, do you have anybody in your family who's this or whatever, and do I need to worry about this? We talked about it. This is stuff that we talked about. So, so Crucible, I understand what you're saying, but I also think that it's a little not naive to think that if you marry someone, and understanding what Shelby said, that their family is family up to a point, because then your family starts getting into your business, not just your finances, but they just start to get into your business like we were talking about before, and it becomes a problem. So you guys hold on for a minute. Shy Lady popped in, so I'm gonna let her say something. Shy Lady, welcome.
Hey, welcome. I just wanted to throw something out to the panel. I have a situation in my own family, not my immediate family, but one of my father's brothers, my uncle. So he's in his 80s now, and he has a will. And I just want to ask, now he married a woman who had a child before he met her. And I know for a fact that he's left his son something, but he has not left this daughter from another marriage anything. And I don't know much about. I didn't even know that his ex had a child, because I've never heard of it until he had mentioned to me a while back. But I want to ask the panel: do you feel that? And like I said, I don't know a relationship. I don't think he has anything to do with the stepdaughter or whatever. I think she's at least 10 years older than his son, because I think when he met the woman, the girl was about maybe 10 or 12 years old. She was a lot older. And I'm just asking the panel, do you think that this person has a right to be in the will if she's not his biological child? That's just something throwing that out there, because like I said, I know for a fact that he didn't even consider her at all.
Okay, I want to go to Shelby first and then Crazy Lady, because both of them both want to talk. So,
If he did not adopt her, she has no right to anything, in my opinion.
but even
If
if
he
you did adopt her, if he's not named in the will, then you don't get anything, right?
Right, right. If they didn't have any kind of relationship at all, if she didn't live with them, visit or anything with them, period, she has no right.
Okay, I asked the question because I know Crucible was saying family's family, and I guess you can consider her family by law, but biologically she's not. And as far as I know, she's never lived with her mom and my uncle. Like I said, she's several. She might even be 15 years older
But child
than
lady,
the
still
son.
doesn't it come down to if you're not named in the will, you're not in the will. Period. So if you
True, but
want
I was
something,
just
you can
asking.
you can go to court. But I mean, no, I understand what you're saying. But if she was not adopted, whatever. I don't know. My whole thing is if you're not in the will, then unless you go to court and you try to fight it out, and then nobody gets anything for the next 20 years, then you all can do it like that. Or the bottom line is you're not in the will, you don't get anything. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is.
Right,
Now
right.
the mother can give part of hers to
Well,
the
true,
child.
true, true. So other people can step up to give something to this particular person. So, crazy lady, I know you have been waiting, and I know you've been wanting to say something, girl. So go ahead.
Um, with the whole child thing, if she was in the household and like if he raised her and stuff, I would kind of like be, kind of curious if he didn't include her. But like if she was just like an like just a name in a conversation or whatever, even if that, then yeah, I wouldn't, you know. And I agree, will should be binding. I don't care,
Right.
whomever, wherever, uh, it's their stuff, and check it out. Their will, the way I look at it, that's the last thing they're ever going to ask of any of us,
hmm And
Okay.
you
especially if
know?
it's already signed and
Yeah.
notarized or however they do it, there's nothing that they
Mm-hmm.
can do.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay. So,
Can
I'm
I
sorry,
add
crazy.
something? Or if they're finished talking?
No, go ahead, go ahead, because I want to read some things that Chris said, and I wanted to address what he said. Go ahead.
I want to add something about the land situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, we have land. We do have conflict in our family because of our land. Um, my mother-in-law left it to my husband instead of splitting it three ways. We are uh, in the process because the other two want to sell their part, and they don't care who they sell it to. They just want it sold. Um, so we're like trying to appease them, but also in the process trying to explain to them that even though they want to sell it, they want to try to sell it to someone in the family instead of just somebody,
Mm-hmm.
because that's not what their dad would have wanted. So it's you have we're Solly, try to say what I'm saying.
No, I know, I totally get it. I totally get it. 100%.
So we it's just it's like the only crazy lady saying, you got to um now I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. I'll come back to you. So Chris says if you treat your money use if you treat your money use as a business and not willy billy, you'll have money at the end of it. Okay, Chris. So I am treating this money. I mean, so now, but yet you all are saying family is family, and whatever. Let's see. Then Chris says to the only crazy lady, quick claim is not as quick as you would think. They are flagged 90% of the time and delay the process. Crazy lady says, I would still see what I could do. Then, Chris, you say that indicates money issues. Shelley agrees with me. If a spouse is wanting you to sell an heirloom, yes. I mean, it could be money issues, or it could be that they just want the money so they can spend it on something else. Pook says, I believe you're with the wrong person if that's an issue. See, 10 days close is better to no inspections. Target, okay, I'm saying to. Chris says, a spouse demanding selling of a family heirloom to me indicates untrust with the ranks and money hungry of selfishness. Chris says, but if you get a divorce, even with separate accounts, someone will get alimony based on who has what in the court's eyes. GB says, yes, if you don't want kids, don't get married. Based on total account assets. Crazy Lady says, I need to understand the process of buying a house through auction foreclosure and the property tax thing, because I have seen in paper where the property is being auctioned for back taxes. The easiest way to investment, family, or to protect yourself. Juju says, when I was married, my husband and I had one account. Chris says, foreclosure, yes, basically a lien through the state or county. Chris also says that will have to be paid. Sometimes auctions will close with back tax. Okay, go to the bank. See, Chris says this is such a great convo. It is a great conversation. Crucible says if you're in the will, you are entitled to something. You don't have to be related. That's very true. Chris says promoted your show the other day. Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much. Minnesota says conversation. I'm assuming you mean is so good. Charlotte says, no, he didn't raise her. I'm in trouble. Luke says, tragic circumstances. Everyone feels owed. To Shelby from Chris, trust fund is better. Option declared in the will. Sell the land, head to the nearest casino, GB says, and go in all red on the roulette table. I had to hire someone to deal with legal sides. Okay. So, I mean, when people die, unless that person has had, the person who left everything has a very specific will in terms of what they want done with their money or whatever, then it's like a free for all. Everybody starts coming out of the woodwork that you have not seen for years. Everybody wants a something of this or something of that. And I will say that when Prince died, and he, which surprised me, passed away without a will, I have to give credit to his family members. I think the court even gave credit to them too. It's like he had some half brothers and half sisters. They all said, we're not going to fight. We're going to split everything equally. I think it was like five of them, and each of them all walked away with a piece of $300 million, and they agreed to leave his house, which I think they're turning into a museum or something, but they all still have a piece of that, but again, I come back around, making the trip back around to my original question is all this conversation that we've all had. We've all talked about what we would not do. Y'all have heard what I definitely wouldn't do, whatever. Is it reasonable that when spouses get married, they should share their money? And throw in what Crucible said, and about family is family. What Shelby said, family is family, for better or for worse, whatever. So instead of marrying that one person, to me, it just sounds like you've married the entire clan. And no matter what happens, if they want money, you give it to them. Does that include if they're a freeloader or something, that you give it to them? After all, they're family, right? Crucible, I'm going to go to you.
Yeah, I think what it boils down to is, as Brina said in the chat, prenups are unsexy and they're unromantic, but life and marriage and a lot of things are unsexy and unromantic, and sometimes you have to you have to look at things in the cold hard light of day. It's not romantic at all, but it's part of life. So I think, like anything in life, particularly with marriage and spouses and kids, communication is the key. Are you on the same page philosophically, ethically? Do you agree in terms of your values? You don't have to have individual discussions about what if this thing happened to my, and get into all kinds of details about specific. You can just talk generally speaking about how you feel about those kinds of things. And if you're getting red flags, obviously you need to rethink that. But it's simple communication. You're not always going to agree. Everything is kind of a case by case basis, but you can get a good general sense of what somebody's about and whether you're going to bang heads on that stuff just by maybe putting out some for instances and see how they respond.
Okay. Chris says, at their most basic, trust can be grouped into two broad categories: living trust and testamentary trust. A living trust is created by an individual during his or her lifetime. The grantor transfers property to a trust that is managed for the most beneficiary by a trustee. Cook says equitable contribution. Okay, Chris, context of family, direct abroad. Frankie, thank you very much for the gift, and everyone, thank you for liking the show. And DMAC, welcome. I didn't see you pop in. Welcome, guys. I you all have answered my questions. Shiley, you want to say something? You want to add something in? Shiley, you there? Okay, she's probably driving or shopping. Okay.
Oh, wait. Well, did you call me?
Yes,
I'm
I want to know.
sorry.
Did you want to add? Did you want to add something or?
Oh, no. Good show as always. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you for showing up. Thank you, Crazy Lady.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have anything you want to add?
No, I think I said it all.
Okay, Crucible, you want to add anything else?
Yeah, just real quick. It was a really, really interesting conversation. And I think it's always interesting when you get this confluence or convergence of expectations, obligations, responsibilities. And even though I just said I'm kind of talk out of both sides of my mouth here, I even said, you can talk broadly and generally and in the abstract about how certain things would be handled. You can have this conversation before you get married. But once the rubber meets the road and context gets applied, and now we're really having to live this situation, I could see why at one point I might have said to my future spouse, if this situation arises, you can count on me to step in. And maybe 10 years later, that situation does arise. And now I'm on record as saying I will step in. Maybe my circumstances have changed. Maybe I was just talking out my you-know-what at the time. Maybe I don't really feel that way. And so now I'm having to make a decision based on my previous statements. But I think it's always interesting to see how people handle that combination of expectations, obligations, and responsibilities, because they're not always the same thing, and not everybody sees them the same way. So, but anyway, it was really a very interesting conversation, Solid. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And Chris says, yes, context is very important on what ifs. Shiley says, everyone have a great day. You too, Shiley. Shelby. And Brina says, such a good topic.
I just, what about the instant? Well, no, I'm not going to say that as what if. There's an instance. My dad remarried and he has another child. So in that situation, his wife is going to get a part of mine and my sister's inheritance. So just think about that, and that's going to be a discussion for our next show. Just put it like that, Solid.
Well,
But
I mean, but if it's your father's money, then would you expect your brother or sister, your brother, or no, I'm thinking about the other child that would be your half brother, half sister. Wouldn't you Wait, I'm sorry. When he got married, did he have another child with this woman,
He
or
had
is
another child with his wife.
okay?
Yes.
So that means that half brother or sister is also going to inherit, right?
Yes.
Okay, and if the stepmother lives, then she will inherit.
Right, but it's going to come out of my sister's and I's inheritance instead of his child. Because he has a whole separate thing for her.
Okay, in the state that you live in, is it where spouse trumps uh the
Child?
spouse trumps the child?
Yes.
So
We can
unless
contest it if we want to, but we've agreed that, it's one of those situations, if he was on fire, we wouldn't spit on him type thing. So we're like, whatever we get's fine. If we get anything, if we get nothing, that's fine. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that could be that instance too. But
but the bottom line comes in where unless he welcome Damien, welcome Ralph, and welcome Grit. The bottom line is unless the person who is writing the will or leaving whatever, unless they specifically leave someone out or include someone, and especially if you're in a state where especially if it's in a state, if the person passes away, whatever, in a state where the spouse gets everything, and then you know you're relying on the spouse, whatever, to give you something,
mm-hmm.
you really have nothing to say, because
Right.
my parents lived in Chicago, and I will share this. When my father passed away, basically everything went to my mother. But my father had uh, a will where he said that when I pass away, his two daughters automatically get this, this, and this, and this. Something that my
Right.
mother could not say anything about. Had he not have done that, we wouldn't have gotten that. It would have gone to my mother, and we would have had to wait until she passed away to get everything else.
Right.
But because he was very clear. He was very clear about two particular things, and my sister and I got them. So you're really at the mercy of, number one, of the person who is writing the will, and if they're married. And just from what my father did, I have a living will, and I'm going to turn it into a trust. But I have very clear things of when I'm leaving my son, and what his wife, whoever he decides to marry, cannot get. That her family cannot get. I'm being very clear. And that may sound rude, it may sound whatever, but I am being very clear. And I'm, and turning into a trust where you cannot contest it.
Yeah.
To the point that if my son were to pass away, that it would go to a specific charity.
Right.
So I'm being very clear. So, when you talk about couples and finances and things like that, and there's a lot that comes with it, especially when you have family that's hanging around that may be chomping at the bit, whatever. And usually it's people that you haven't seen or spoken to for years. And all of a sudden, like we all know, they pop up, and all of a sudden, and I'm telling you, when my mother passed away, some family members came out and they were like, oh, well, so, oh, whatever. And my sister-in-law were like, nope. So, so is that
But
what
I
you
just
want?
wanted to say, good show. I enjoyed the conversation. It's always good.
Well, thank you. And Chris, I'm just saying you got to run if you're still here. Thank you for popping in and for all of your comments. Um, uh, Dee says, "What about your future grandchildren?" Again, I said I was very specific. I'm not going to get into any more else, but there's something very specific, that I am saying about if my son marries, and his wife and her family. Didn't say anything about grandchildren. Didn't say anything about that. So, Crazy Lady and Crucible, any other last words before we close this puppy down?
No, this show always makes me think in a good way. So I appreciate the mental stimulation. It was a good show.
I know I always give y'all something else to say. Man, Salad sure is selfish. So, oh yes, great. You did make it. And Crazy Lady, you have anything else you want to
I'm
add?
selfish too, because I'm like, yeah, no, it's all mine.
Hey guys, I
No, it's
always like
Ross's
to
too, but
say, what I think, and y'all can't say that Salad didn't say it. I always try to put it out there, so if it ever comes back, I told you. I'm just, so okay, guys. So again, thank you so much. Tomorrow, I guess I posted the show. I can't remember what tomorrow we're talking about, but everyone, thank you so much for popping in. I do appreciate it, and as always, thank you. And wherever you are in the world, have a good evening, day, afternoon, evening. Grit, I know it's already Wednesday for you, so you enjoy the rest of your day, and go where the wind takes you, everyone. And I'm going to go out with different music again. Let's see. Crazy Lady, Crucible, Shelby, Shy Lady, thank you for popping on. And everyone, thanks for liking the show. Dee says we will be studying your shows as you publish. I have already gotten comments and stuff that people send me in email. People have words for me, Dee. But hey, this is me. I'm not trying to BS anyone. This is me. Juju says chapter 2. Well, this was a requested show. Requested show, so I did do the show. The world turns around you. This part. And guys, do you like the hour thing? It's only for you. Do you know you are everything? Shelby says I like the music. And Juju says yeah. So Linda, thank you for popping in. Oh, Linda's gone, but thank you. Minnesota, Shelby, Frankie, Power Girl, Shy Lady, Brina. Thank you all. GP, Chris, Ralph Williams. Thank you. D-Mac. I know I'm forgetting somebody. Pook. Thank you, Pook. Anyone who's listening over on any other platform, thank you as well. And you guys, again, thank you for listening to my shows on YouTube. I do publish over on YouTube. I do the audio and the visual. Slowly but surely, some shows are listened to more than others, but thank you. I appreciate the subscribers. Slowly but surely, I am moving up there. So thank you. Says an hour seems rushed sometimes, but you do what you gotta do for you. You are everything. You're the flowers of the spring. Well, I do go a little longer today. Only Crazy Lady says TikTok, and agree with D. Okay. Yeah, but 2 hours was just too long, and we were getting off topic too much, and I just needed to tighten it up some. And I also have a business that I run, so I also have to deal with that too. But I appreciate you guys coming. I really do. Juju, remember when it was just me, you, and Shy Lady? But you stuck with me, girl. You and Shy Lady, you guys stuck with me. And Petty Deb, you all just y'all stuck with me. Yeah, good Lord. Oh, G says you are producer, director, showrunner, business owner, and a mommy. Oh, Juju, but you guys were there. This is before I came over to Podbean, y'all. But I stuck it out, and that was it. So those were the days. All right, you guys, enjoy the rest of your day. I appreciate you so much. And on that note, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.